Changing at guard when it comes to the leadership of your Philadelphia 76ers. He's Keith Pompey. I'm Marc Farzetta. We'll break it all down and more on this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This particular episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Keith Pompey, your 76ers beat writer. When it comes to Tyrese Maxey, we've talked about this a lot throughout the offseason. This is going to have to become more of his team, especially in the heavily load-managed situation that Joel Embiid may find himself in this season, and also for the future. Sixers would love to see Tyrese Maxey take on more of a leadership role. You have an article on Inquirer.com talking about that right now. And one of the other interesting things about this is that Maxey came out during media day and right out of the gate set a tone. And that tone was setting a standard for the rest of the season. No matter who's available, no matter who's out there, when you're going to watch a Sixers game or Sixers fans are going to go to a Sixers game, you're going to be there in the present. You got to understand the style of play that they're going to go about this, which is going to be, I assume, hard-nosed, tough defense, all-out effort on the court all the time. That's coming from Tyrese Maxey. It's not coming from Paul George. It's not coming from Joel Embiid. It's coming from Tyrese Maxey. He's always been mature, Keith, but to take on this type of tone-setting leadership role, I find it very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's forced, but it's kind of like there's a void right now. You know, like as you said, you know, Joel Embiid is coming off of injuries. Paul George is coming off injuries. Also, you know, Paul George's second season here. You know, outside of Joel, you know, Tyrese has been here the second longest. Or the longest. So, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, he has to come out and say that. You know, he has to be the extension of the coach. He's also the point guard, the primary ball handler. But it's one of those things where, you know, when he comes out and he says, hey, no matter who's out there, this is how we got to play. Yes and no. But at the same time, you understand where he's coming from. Just because he has to be that guy. He has to be the guy that organizes everything. Now, ideally, you would want Joel Embiid to do it. You would want someone else to do it. But just because of their situations and because of personalities, you know, Joel is more laid back. He's more of an introvert, whereas Tyrese is the more well-liked guy out of everyone. Like, he's the dude that everyone's making a phone call to. He's the dude that everyone's inviting to a party and stuff like that. So, you know, his leadership has to come out and it has to shine. But again, it tells you just where the 76ers are right now.
Certainly. And the other thing about it that I find really interesting is that I almost consider it to be a dropping of the gauntlet type of thing. Like, look, this is the way it's going to be. And Forrest, I understand where you're going with that. I think what I hear is it's more of a, not forced that he's forced into an uncomfortable situation and he's trying to force, you know, the square peg into a round hole. It's not that. It's just I'm dropping this down right now. We are setting a new standard this year. And I think it goes along the lines of the culture that these Sixers are trying to build right now, both with Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and hopefully whenever Jared McCain's healthy enough to play again, they're trying to set a new standard, a new culture in Philadelphia with guys that want to go out there and guys that want to play, not a carryover of the process where we're still waiting to see if that bears real fruit other than a Joel Embiid MVP award. I got the sense of Tyrese Maxey kind of being where a lot of Sixers fans are right now, which is fed up. They're fed up with it. They just want to see this team win. They don't want to hear the excuses for Joel Embiid. They don't want to hear about more injuries. They just want to see their team go out there and play good basketball. And I think what I'll say, I don't want to downgrade it into a sales pitch because I do think what Tyrese Maxey said was absolutely genuine, but he's letting people know that he's aware of the way the Sixers have been perceived in the past, and he wants all the drama to go out the window, and he just wants it to be about playing good ball.
Yeah.
That's what I got out of his message last week.
Well, it's also, and the one thing that he talked about, this was on Saturday. He talked about how, because I asked him, I said, Tyrese, where did this leadership quality come from? Where did all this come from? And he was like, basically, I've been around for a while, but he said 2 years ago, towards the end of, the season where he became the All-Star 2 seasons ago, Joel told him that he needed him to be a little bit more vocal, right? And he said to him, he tried last year in the beginning, but he really didn't get comfortable with it until midway in the season, and where we talk about it is because when you look around, there's not a lot of veterans anymore. I mean, yeah, you got Kelly Oubre, you have Andre Drummond, but what I'm talking about outside of Drummond, there's none of, there's none of Tyrese's old heads. Tobias is in here. James Harden is in here. A lot of these guys who took over that leadership quality, they're just not. So when you look at it and we look at Joel and we look at the injuries, I mean, Joel played, 39 games 2 years ago. He played 19 games last year. Meaxey had to step up. He has to. Now, the biggest question mark is, right, to me is, we talk about leadership, vocal leadership, but is he also the leader of the team? And I feel like he's going to be. And the reason why I'm talking about athletic leader, talking about production leader, because, you look at him and you say to yourself, he's not, because, you can close your eyes and you can imagine Maxey's biggest game, greatest game that he had of his career. That's nothing compared. It's great, but it doesn't compare to what Embiid has done. You look at the accolades that Paul George has had over his career. What Meaxey has done doesn't compare, right? But at the same time, when you look at where these guys are coming from, we talk about Embiid, 19 games. Embiid saying everything is day to day. Paul George right now is in question if he's even going to play in the season opener, right? So right then and there, when you look at Meaxey, you have to say that, he's not only the most reliable player, but because he's the most reliable player, he may be the best player on the team if Embiid doesn't become healthy. So, there's a lot of weight on his shoulder in regards to Meaxey. But at the same time, he is embracing it. But that's why I say it's a little forced, because it's kind of sort of like you would think you got a big three and you want to just blend in and do everything. But right about now is you have to become the spokesman, and at least in the early goings, a lot of the team's success is going to depend on you. And for him, it doesn't mean just scoring 30, 40 points. It's like, I got to get people involved. I got to do a lot of different things. So, he is right now, you can make an argument, while he is the leader, you can make an argument for today, right now, that under the circumstances, he's also their best player.
Not to cross sports with this, but a lot of people talked about Jalen Hurts. Like, he was an introvert. He didn't want to be the rah-rah guy. He didn't want to be the talker. And now you see him as his career has gone on. And yeah, a Super Bowl MVP and a Super Bowl ring helps this, but he's become more comfortable with being more of that rah-rah guy, being more of the guy to give that motivational speech or have a conversation with a teammate, a tough conversation with a teammate. Now, Maxey's got a long way to go to be able to get to that same level, of course, but it almost feels like right now he's forced into that role. The only difference is I think Tyrese Maxey has always been comfortable in a leadership role. He just hasn't been called upon or forced into it like I think he's going to be. Really, at the end of last year, he was. And then also the way he is going to be in this upcoming season. And I love one of the things, I think he told you something about, this is just how I am. Maybe I'm old now. Is that what he said about taking on more of a vocal role?
Yeah, I'm old. I was like, okay, 25. You about to be 25? Okay.
Old as dirt. But I think that is a younger player really coming into his own, where he looks around and realizes, well, and this is not a shot at Joel Embiid. It's not a shot at Paul George. It's an acknowledgement of their availability and lack thereof, where he's looking around and being like, all right, no one else is going to do it. So it's got to be me. If I'm going to be the most consistent and the most consistently good player out there, best player out there, then I have to take on that mantle.
Exactly right. You're exactly right. The best player out there. Yeah, I got to take on that mantle. And the thing is, you look at him and you say to yourself, is he there yet? Is he do you look at him? Do you say if Meaxey would go on to the New York Knicks, would he be looked upon as the leader? Probably not, because he would be a leader, but he wouldn't have to do all that. But I kind of think that for this team, and there are certain people who are critical of Meaxey. Some people love him, some people don't. Like they talk about, bring up his flaws. But I think for this particular team, for this situation, that he's suited for this. Because let's think about this. It wasn't too long ago, the year before he made the All-Star team, that Doc Rivers took him out of the starting lineup. Mm-hmm. Now, they tried to make it seem like Meaxey said, I'll do what was forever for the team. And we found out that was not true. They took him out of the starting lineup, right? He was also a guy as a rookie. He came in, and I remember that one game, the first time he really started against the Denver Nuggets, and he had a phenomenal game. And then all of a sudden, he goes back to the bench, right? But then the playoffs, they needed him. And guess what? He stepped up again. He kind of extended the series, right? And when they lost, they ended up losing in Game 7 to the Atlanta Hawks on, Ben Simmons, everybody talking about passing up the shot. But it wouldn't have been a Game 7 if it wasn't for Meaxey. So when we look at this, when you have a guy right now, and there's sort of like the changing of the guards, you got these injuries, and you have a bunch of unheralded players, Meaxey might be the best one to lead them, because he's not a top draft pick. He was the 22nd overall pick, right? He was a guy who came off the bench. They can look at him now as someone who's closer to them than if he was a top pick or a number 3 pick, right? So I feel like this is a good role for him and to keep the leadership. The biggest question mark is just how are they going to do over time until they get healthy? But I think that he is the right guy to do it. And he's also a great person. You know what I mean? Like we talk about, we talk about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is, from all accounts, what I hear is a quality young man. Mm-hmm. The same thing for Meaxey. I have yet to find anybody say anything negative about Tyrese Maxey.
We were asked by the mothership. We were asked by Locked On Sports to go over the biggest problem with the 76ers. We're going to get into that. And one of them does have to do with Tyrese Maxey. It's a problem we identified early on in the offseason, something we want to see Maxey do differently this year. We'll talk about that when we return. This is Locked On 76ers on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. And now it's time to tell you about FanDuel. How about this offer right now from FanDuel? As we know, the NFL season is upon us, and FanDuel has this offer for you that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's right. Pick a bet. Put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. So go to FanDuel.com right now to get started and download the FanDuel app. I love using FanDuel because the player props, you can ride same-game parlays and all that. It makes every single game day that much more exciting with the FanDuel app. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app, and get started today with this $5 bet. And if it hits for new customers, you get $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel makes every game day so much more exciting. So take advantage. Go to FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app to get started at FanDuel.com. Keith Pompey, we were asked by the mothership the biggest problem surrounding the 10-9-8 76ers. And to get off of Meaxey for a second, I think everyone throughout the entire world, Abu Dhabi and more, Abu Dhabi and beyond, knows what the 76ers' biggest problem is this year. Keith, what would you say it is?
Help. I mean, the number one is the biggest problem. Like if we just want to single out one person, is the health of Joel Embiid. It's the biggest question mark. Like you need to know what he's going to do, right? The big thing is everybody wants to know, hey, is he going to play in tomorrow's preseason game? I probably doubt it, but tomorrow in Abu Dhabi. But overall, the health issue is crazy. I mean, because when we look at it, you talk about you got Joel Embiid, you got Paul George. Oh, Jared McCain just had surgery yesterday, right? You have Trendon Watford, was limited in practices because of a hamstring issue. So right now, the 76ers, their biggest problem is, can they stay healthy? Are they going to be healthy enough, especially when the playoffs come? Because this is a wide open Eastern Conference. But the 76ers are going to lose quite a bit if they don't have their best players out there playing.
Yeah, health certainly is their biggest problem. If you play the fantasy world for a second here, and I don't mean fantasy basketball, but just live in a fantasy for a second. Let's have the fantasy that the Sixers are healthy this year. Let's live in the fantasy that Joel Embiid plays 65 to 70 games. He's never played, I don't think, in more than 68 games in his entire career in a season. But let's just live in this world where we're talking about him playing 65 games. We're talking about Paul George playing 70 games. The biggest problem after that, I think, is who's controlling the point guard, the actual point guard, who's distributing, who's finding these guys, who's making them open, who's finding them open, who's getting open. And Meaxey is going to be the guy that's going to be on that ball more often than not. And one of the things we asked going into this offseason, Keith, was whether or not Tyrese Maxey was going to increase his court vision, get better at that, find a way to get out of those double teams. He said on media day that he used to criticize Joel Embiid. Like, I'm wide open, Joe, give me the ball. And he's like, yeah, I can't find you. Like it's hard. And now he's in the position where Tyrese Maxey is now in the position where he's got to find the open guy. He's double teamed. And he now understands what Joel Embiid was talking about. The only difference is he's talking about a guy who's 7 foot versus a guy who's 6'4". So it's a little bit more difficult. So I look at it like Tyrese Maxey still got to take that big step forward, because either way, health or no health, injuries, no injuries, a constant is that Tyrese Maxey is going to be the one distributing the basketball, facilitating more than anybody.
Exactly. And it's crazy that he said that, because, there was a point where he was like, hey, that guy is open. Okay, maybe Tyrese has to, mature a little bit as a point guard. But he explained it. He accepted it. You know what I mean? And that is crucial, because, we talked about it. Here's the thing with Tyrese in the past. The knock was that when teams start blitzing him in the fourth quarter, he would turn the ball over. He would make mistakes. And you always felt like, just get the ball out your hands a little bit quicker and sooner, right? We all know that even though he addressed it, teams are still going to play him the same way until they see a change. So that's what's going to happen. And when we talked about earlier, we said, it's just not about scoring points, because, yeah, you were scoring a lot of points, but then the fourth quarter would come and then you would struggle when you had to pass the ball and get rid of it. So to me, that's why I said, for him, it's just not about scoring. It's about distributing. It's about getting other people involved. I still expect him to have probably average maybe 27 points, 26. But at the same time, I expect his assist total to go up. I expect him to make easier plays, to do a lot of things. And with that being said, I think that he'll be more efficient, because last year he averaged that many points, but he shot the ball a lot. I think he'll be more efficient, but he'll get other people involved. That's the next step that he has to make. And it's not a knock on him. It's just that, he's been a guy for most of his career, high school, college, wherever he was, it was all about him scoring points. He was a bucket. And that's what he did. He was quick. He was a matchup problem. He was a bucket. But for them to be successful, he has to be a bucket still. But at the same time, he has to distribute the rock and make sure that other people eat as well.
Yeah. What about who runs with him? I mean, we've talked about Jared McCain a lot. We've obviously talked about VJ Edgecombe and whatever happens with Quentin Grimes. And the hour is upon us, by the way. We'll get to that in a second. But when it comes to who runs with him, how much do you think that's going to impact how he distributes?
Oh, a lot. I think that when Trendon Watford is out there, we're going to see Tyrese off the ball a lot. I think we're going to see the slashing Tyrese. I think we're going to see the Tyrese Maxey that we saw when he played with James Harden. I mean, we think about it. When Harden was out there, Tyrese Maxey, he was phenomenal. Like, it was one of those things where you would see Tyrese and it was like, go. It was like he was doing go routes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he
right.
was like AJ Brown getting the ball. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like he would go up the streak up there, and next thing you know, you would see the long pass or whatever. And Tyrese Maxey was like a one-man transition. I think that with Trendon Watford, we're going to see a lot of Maxey going to the cup. You know, I think that we'll see him like running to the three, doing a lot of different things. So I do believe, yes, it depends on who's out there. Now, right now, I think that VJ Edgecombe is going to be a big beneficiary when Maxey is playing. And also Maxey, Paul George, Embiid, if they're all out there, I think that's when we'll see Maxey. Yeah, he'll get his, but at the same time, we'll see a lot of lobs. We'll see a lot of different things to whereas he's contributing to rock the VJ. But I do believe when Trendon Watford's out there, it's going to be Maxey is going to be a thriving off the ball.
Fair enough. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about Grimes Watch because today is October 1st. No deadline. What happens now with Quentin Grimes and the Philadelphia 76ers? All that and more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers. And now it's time to tell you about Peloton, as Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength training. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. The swivel screen is a game changer, and you could go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward with Peloton. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That's O-N-E, Peloton.com. Peloton, onepeloton.com. Keith Pompey, October 1st. And we know Quentin Grimes still isn't signed. I don't know if the Sixers are on Abu Dhabi time now, what that means for Quentin Grimes, if there's like a 15-hour extension or 12-hour extension. I don't know. How does this go down now, being that it is October 1st and still not signed?
I mean, I think something happens today before the deadline. I mean, well, who knows? I mean, you don't know. Like they keep talking about how they're far apart. But at this particular stage, I wouldn't be unless he got a balloon deal, like a 1-year balloon deal. And I'm not talking about like, you know, they're offering him like the qualifying offer is like 8.7. But if it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if he took a balloon deal if let's say it was double that money for 1 year. And then he says, okay, well then just trade me. I'll be a free agent next year. Aside from that, I can see him just taking a qualifying offer, right? I mean, my thing is, and there's no offense to Quentin Grimes, and there's no, and you can see it both ways. You can see Quentin wanting to get paid. You can also see where the 76ers, due to the way the roster is constructed and the money that they have available, for them to say, if we don't think that we're going to win a championship this year, I don't think we're going to go all in and give you the money that you want, because then we're going to be in the second apron. And then guess what? In a couple of years, we're going to have to get rid of everybody and blow this thing up, right? I just feel like that they probably think that is a little bit too soon, right? And unfortunately, is a bad situation for Quentin, because he believes that he deserves that money. He played well when he came here, but I just don't see the 76ers hitting the go now button when they know that they'll have to blow everything up. But you're going to blow it up when you have VJ Edgecombe, Jared McCain's hurt, he'll come back later, Tyrese Maxey. You want to build around those guys down the future. You just don't want to disband stuff already.
What does your gut tell you when it comes to how this gets resolved? Do you think he takes the balloon deal? Because one thing I will say, I don't think in any world he is signing some sort of long-term deal around $9 million a year.
No,
Like, I don't think he's signing up. I just think that one, I think we could rule that situation out. So it's a matter of whether or not he's going to say, damn it, all right, fine, 8.7. Or the Sixers say, hey, look, we're going to play ball with you. You came in, you played great. We still like what you could do here. 13, 14 million for a year and then move on. That would, I think, would be more in the realm of possibility as you're talking about that balloon deal type
situation. That would be more, like 13, 14, maybe 15. But like if it's like 9 million, you give up $2 million, like to like, 10 mil just to give up, my trade exception or whatever. I don't know. My trade clause, I don't know if I would do that because where you're going. See, the problem is if everyone is healthy, Quentin Grimes is not going to have the same stats that he had a year ago. Now, if you do have a trade clause and they say, hey, we want to trade you to such and such team, well, then, okay. You mean you want to trade me to the Brooklyn Nets? You want to trade me to the Washington Wizards? You want to trade me to the Charlotte Hornets or a team where he's going to get numbers? Yeah, but if you're going to trade me to another team where I'm going to be getting 10 minutes a game, that's not going to impact me. That's not going to help my future because right now it just seems like for Quentin Grimes, and everybody says, yeah, you want to win, and I get it. He wants to win. But right now it's all about getting that next payday, securing his future. And you got to be careful of where you go or what situation you're in to get paid because, if he stays here, he's not going to get paid. He's just not at least not right now.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. All right, well, we will figure this out as the day goes on, and the 76ers will hopefully figure this out as the day goes on as well. We thank you for making Locked On your first listen every day. For your second listen, how about you check out Locked On Fantasy Basketball? Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast, giving you daily tips and helping you win your league, all while making you a smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Keith Pompey, I'm Marc Barzetta. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Back with you guys tomorrow, and we'll know whether or not Quentin Grimes will be here for another year. See you then.